I had a very interesting exchange on Twitter today with a younger person about what you can read and what kind of life to live, some very big picture topics. And it got me thinking about some matters I've been reflecting on quite a bit lately and that I think might be of interest to other people. So, a little bit of context here. I mentioned that yesterday was Thanksgiving here in the United States, and all I really did over that time was I read some, fantasy literature. I went and picked up Cat, and we came here, had a nice meal, got to catch up on a lot of stuff between me and Andy and Kat. And then we watched Rick and Morty. Then we ate some more food, because it's Thanksgiving and you snack on things over time, chatted a bit more. And then that was it for the day, basically. And so this Tucker wrote me and said, "It's nice to see well-read people such as yourself making time to watch a season of a cartoon and just hang out with friends and family. Here's the real meat. It can seem impossible to pursue being truly well-read and also have time for everything else. Do you have any thoughts on that?" And my immediate response was, well, yeah, don't frame things in terms of some vague and unattainable goal of being truly well-read or having time for everything else. Life involves trade-offs, sacrifices, and prioritizing. You can only do so much, and that's usually not a lot. And I think I'll talk about the being truly well-read some other time. I want to talk here about the fact that we can't do it all. That's impossible. And it's as impossible an ideal, although not structured in exactly the same way as being truly well-read, whatever that is going to mean. So I do think that our lives, long before we even realize this is the case, are often very contingently shaped by not only the choices that we ourselves make, oftentimes without fully understanding the context and the entire range of options and background assumptions that are going into those choices that we do from childhood onward, but they're also structured by the choices that other people make for us as well. Our parents, our teachers, our coaches, mentors, friend groups, whoever else is involved in structuring the basic schedule, you could say, of our lives, or the unschedule, right? And so I think it's really important for us, particularly as we move into adulthood, and then, as we typically screw up quite a bit and move into from young adulthood into middle age and then perhaps even into old age, that we think very consciously about the fact that we are indeed making orders of preference, however you want to think about it. And there's a number of philosophers out there, I think, who have a great deal to contribute in this respect. If you think about Aristotle and the notion of what gets translated as moral choice or deliberate choice, proirasis, it literally means to choose one thing in place of or rather than another. The Stoics, up until Epictetus, defined it as a choice before a choice, and then Epictetus made it the absolute centerpiece of his work in general. We are proirasis. We are our ordering of preferences and choices and commitments. And one thing that we have to keep in mind is we truly cannot have it all. And we can't even make decisions on the basis of laying everything out in front of us and looking at each thing rationally and fully and then coming to a nice ordering that is perfectly rational and would work not just for us as individuals, but for human beings in general. I mean, we can do this in very broad strokes, but we can't actually do this when we get down to all of the particulars. And so we have to think about our prioritizations, our preferences, and I would even use the word sacrifices. Somebody also mentioned, a philosopher who thought quite a bit about this was Max Scheler, who makes this notion of preference absolutely central to his ethics as well. And, we can find orderings of our lives and activities and the goods that we pursue and desire and the evils that we want to avoid and the relationships that we have and the moral development that we want to undergo. All these things, we can find orderings that work for us for a while, but they may not be perfect for us for our entire life. And we have to be willing to look at how other people are doing things and saying, oh, no, I don't want to do things that way because look at that person really messed up their life. They claim to be a family man, but they worked too hard and didn't have time. This is sort of like the plot of a lot of movies, to go to their children's recitals, and they saw the empty chair and they were so sad and it ruined the relationship. We can say, I don't want to be like that guy over there. And then we can also say, oh, that person seems to have better priorities than I do. Or we can look at our priorities and be like, well, there's the priorities that I say that I have, and then there's how I actually behave. I'm making all these cool plans for myself that never get realized, and I need to look at how I actually do indeed behave and what it is that I think I value or show that I value or prefer more. So I think this is a really important theme, and I would like to give a few words of encouragement about this, drawn from, I guess you could say, not just philosophical reflections, but my own experiences with having many, many, many times given the wrong things priority and sometimes lucked out in giving the right things priority. So the first thing is this sort of stuff is difficult, right? And so you shouldn't feel like you're, when you look at other people's lives and the ways in which they've got them ordered and the activities they're pursuing, you're seeing it from the outside. Very often, even if it's a story about like decline and fall, you're only getting a little picture of it. So you can't really judge that effectively until you get to know somebody, what their structures of priorities and what they're giving their time to and what they're not giving their time to, how they really work. So you don't have to feel too bad about your own mistaken priorities that you probably are, engaged in. You might claim you're really about, study and the philosophical life, but, you party a lot on the weekends or something like that. Hey, I've been there, Sometimes you can burn the proverbial candle at both ends and sometimes you can't. The other thing, what you devote yourself to, that really is up to you. And you can take counsel or advice or, even orders from other people. But at some point, you're going to, if it's not something you really, really identify with, you're going to get tired of that and you're going to lose energy, lose steam, not make as much progress as you'd like. It's got to be something that you can buy into. It's got to be reflective of something within you. And again, that can change over time. There can be things that you're not suited for doing in your early 20s, and by the time that you're reaching the end of that decade, you're ready to do that. There's other things that you might find yourself devoting a lot of time to and getting a lot of value out of, and then things assume a different perspective because of things you went through, life events, lessons you've learned, books you've read, and now you've got to reframe those in a different way. Maybe drop some things out and add some new things in. So another thing that I'll say is you literally cannot have it all. And the only ways in which people do appear to be having it all, moving from, as we say, virtue to virtue or strength to strength or success to success, there's always a lot of other people in the background doing a lot of the work that this person is, taking credit for and has been fortunate enough to be in that position. Don't judge yourself and how you're doing based on what you see other people who appear to be successful doing until you actually spend time with them and know them. It's enough if you make some progress in, reading books or exercising your body to be more healthy, or working on your relationships, or developing some philosophical or spiritual practices that you do that you find improve your life. That's good. That's actually doing something for yourself. And if you prioritize, if you order your life to provide those space and time and energy and thought within your life, you will find, like people have throughout the centuries and millennia, that you derive some reward from it. And it doesn't have to be earth shaking, doesn't have to be insights all the time. It doesn't have to be benching 450 pounds or squatting and doing this or any sort of craziness like that in order for you to have actually achieved something. You can indeed make a lot of progress, but it requires attentiveness. It requires deliberately choosing these things over and over and over again. You can't make a choice once or a plan or a schedule and then it just falls into place. You have to keep on persevering in that, and that's tough. And so, I feel for all of you out there who are trying to do that, because I've been there myself, and I still fail at setting up good priorities for myself that I can stick to consistently. I fail myself day by day, week by week, but you just keep working at it, and eventually you get a bit better at it. But you don't have to try to do everything. You shouldn't place that pressure upon yourself. The key, if you do have to do anything, and this is the last bit of advice that I'll close on you, you want to develop a kind of prudence or practical wisdom in taking the stuff in your life and figuring out how you're going to organize and order it so that your choices, your commitments, the habits that you're building, the habits that you're destroying are actually leading you into the kind of life that you want to live, so you can be yourself, seeing a reflection in your actions and choices and judgments and relationships and connections to other people of the things that you say that you really value. And that is genuine prudence or practical wisdom, as the Greeks called it, phronesis, which is a really central part of any virtue ethic. So to return back to this, instance of Thanksgiving, sometimes you actually do need downtime. You can't be rushing ahead, grinding away, hustling all the time. That might be something that you do give preference or prioritization to, because you view that as important for your development. But you also do need to have some time for relaxation, for unstructured downtime, and enjoying yourself and renewing and refreshing yourself. And when you do that, you also want to avoid falling into the trap of trying to make it be the best relaxation time, or the most productive downtime that you can have. That's kind of a mistake there. So back to the central point, you actually can't have it all. And part of what we want to do is learn how to make choices and commitments and prioritizations and sacrifices, the things that we're going to say, not for me, how to do that well and thoughtfully, and in ways that we can continually update and reflect upon and make better. I was almost going to say improve, but I don't want to get caught up in that language of continual improvement. As a matter of fact, if you do good for a while and then you kind of decline for a while and then you find yourself climbing back up, that's okay, and that's perfectly normal too. So, Prioritization, preferences, commitments, choices, habits, all of these things, we want them to be structured by prudence, which we're not born with. We have to develop over time. You probably don't have enough of it. I don't have enough of it, but we can certainly improve it over time, and we can, kind of take heart, hopefully, in the fact that everybody else is struggling with the same thing, even if they don't know it, even if they present themselves as not struggling with it. Everybody is. So you are, I am, and, just try to do it a little bit better.